Hi, I'm Charlotte Merrill, and this is our So Let's Be Friends podcast. This is a place where everyone belongs, and every story matters. Together, we celebrate our differences, bring awareness to disabilities, and build a more inclusive and supportive world. One conversation at a time, let's open our hearts and listen with kindness.
I like when people ask me about my crutches because they can get to know me, and I like having friends, so let's be friends.
This life is beautiful, and you are wonderful.
Hi friends, welcome back to So Let's Be Friends, where we show up for each other and learn through real stories. Today I'm talking with my dad, Loren Merrill, and my mom to continue our conversation. We're celebrating 250 years since the beginning of our country and the Declaration of Independence.
So let's get right to it, right?
Yes.
Amen. We've been waiting for this.
Talking about what freedom and equality really means and how we're still learning and growing. Dad, I'm so happy that you're here.
I'm very happy to be here. Against two of my favorite ladies in the whole world.
Dad, do you think our country is still learning how to support all abilities?
But before he answers that question, I do need to clarify, if you haven't listened to part one, he is a government and world and American history teacher. His passion, he loves talking about politics and the history of our country and the world. And so he's here today to continue our discussion from last time. If you want to hear that, listen to part one and you'll kind of know where we're jumping into today. But yes, we're here to celebrate our country. Happy birthday, America.
Yes.
Yes, Charlotte. I think definitely our country is still learning how to support all abilities. I think it's going to be an ongoing process forever and ever, especially as new challenges face the country. I mean, just a few years ago, we went through COVID, exposing a lot of issues and different things, or causing a lot of issues and different things in our country. And we're still learning how to support everybody that's come through COVID and the damage that was done there. But yes, and nobody or nothing is ever going to be perfect, but the mark of something that is good is something that is working towards perfection, that is constantly reassessing and reevaluating and pushing towards becoming better. Example is mental health, quote unquote mental health. Some abilities, if somebody uses crutches or somebody has a broken leg, a broken arm, those are obvious disabilities that people have. But sometimes, and we call it mental health, and we really should just need to call it brain health, because some people's brains are less optimal than other people's brains, and sometimes it's genetic and sometimes it's environmental. But there's a big stigma on mental health that, the person's crazy or mental or different things like that. And a lot of times it's just a matter of
Needing additional support
or
a little bit of wait time or
an extra supplement, emphasis on certain things, avoiding certain foods and nutrition and things like that.
Getting some brain food. I know that we really focus on activators and brain food for our children.
And it's helped to change the composition of your brains
to neuroplasticity that we've talked about in another podcast,
to function better. And those are things that are continually going on. I mean, when I was a kid, mental health had a whole different connotation than what it does today. And it's something that can be overcome through nutrition and science and just focusing on that. And so,
or someone just being a friend and having a little bit of wait time, walking a little bit slower with that person that needs that support, giving those chances to people that just need, Harrison went to a youth camp this week, and we know that his processing skills are a little bit less. And so him getting to say hi to a friend in a certain amount of time, right? We practiced just with him saying hey and giving the fist bumps like this. Ready? Hey. And that changed everything. Hey. And that changed everything for him to be able to greet another youth.
Instead of trying to say, how are you doing?
He couldn't do that full sentence. He couldn't
In
say,
the
how
spur
are
of the
you doing?
moment.
Yeah, he was able to function that question a little bit later if somebody was willing to wait that process for him to give a moment to ask that question. But youth are quick. Everybody's running around having a good time.
Over 600 kids there.
Yep. And so he practiced just doing the fist bump and saying, hey, and just learning those little skills is life-changing for someone. And that mental health gets better and healthier when they're given a chance. So that's kind of close to our hearts, obviously. Our children have developmental delays, crutches, but also it's that processing disorder, that little bit of that mental health and anyway, it's tough.
Amen.
Yes. Why is inclusion an important part of freedom?
Well, I think it has everything to do with freedom. Freedom to be yourself, the freedom to excel with whatever abilities or disabilities you may have. Inclusion is our country. We have every different type of person, especially America, a place where there are no quote unquote Americans per se. We have Native Americans and all these different groups of people, immigrants that came from all around the world, all these different things. And the inclusion story, and at times it's been a rough story, at times it hasn't been a perfect story, but it is the story of America, is learning how all these different groups and peoples and different religions and backgrounds and customs all to come together to coexist and create this country that we call America, which in my opinion is the greatest country in the world. And I think that's a huge part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. As a dad of kids with disabilities, how does this topic feel personal to you?
Well, my family is my life. Between my wife, when we decided to start a family, that's all I ever dreamed of being, was a husband and a father with 3 kids with disabilities, with rare neurodegenerative disease. And even my other kids all have varying strengths and weaknesses and disabilities. And so it has been my life to support and to help and to teach and to guide my kids any way that I can. That's been it. I know I actually was listening to a podcast a few months ago, and a man who later on in life became very successful. He grew up autistic, in a world that had a lot less support for people who were a little bit different, a little bit slower. And he told the story of how his father sacrificed a lot to teach him and to be with him all the time, to teach him social cues and to be there to train him. And they would work through situations. Okay, what did you do there? What should you have done? What would have been more appropriate? What would have been better? And because of that, because of the sacrifice that his dad made, he was able to be successful. He was a national news personality and reporter later on in life, something that never would have happened had his father not dedicated himself to teach and to train and to mentor his son. And I know my wife has done much more of that with our girls, and I'm trying to do that with our son Harrison, to teach him how to survive, for lack of a better word, or to function more fully in this world that we live in, society, that they can be contributing members of society. Look at Charlotte serving a mission, Caroline helping to run a bakery. Harrison just spent a week on his own with no support from mom and dad except over the phone. Were there rough times of it? Absolutely. Was there learning that was involved? Absolutely. And we'll sit down and we'll talk about all those different things and help him to learn even more.
And he couldn't do it by himself. I don't want to give that, that full credit to him. He did amazing, fantastic, but it takes kids around him. The adults
A
didn't really.
village.
Yeah, a village. Actually, the adults didn't want to help. They actually wanted to send him home. They actually wanted to send Caroline home
first.
and Harrison home at first because of their disability. But the kids, that's what was so great. This next generation coming up is fantastic. It was the kids that reached out and wanted to help him. If he got a bloody nose, he didn't have the fine motor skills to take care of it. It was one of the boys, one of the friends that got the Kleenexes he needed and helped him take care of it. He couldn't have done that without his mom or somebody else helping him. So it was wonderful to see that generation step up and be a friend. And that's what was really heartwarming. And that's when I know that people are going to be okay. People are going to be loved and accepted. I'm seeing it happen all over the place. I think it's mostly the adults that need to recognize that we can
That the
give
world is changing.
The world is changing, yes.
That we're
They
changing.
think that it's still years back before all the technologies and everything.
Having a disability is
Here.
nothing to be ashamed of, is it? Nothing to hide from or to.
Nope. Everyone has disabilities.
And
Mhm.
we can-
Everyone has the abilities that they have challenge in their lives.
and can contribute, huh? I know we got a
Mhm.
text message from one of the young men in Harrison's group and just saying how they learned so much more because Harrison was there and how it just wouldn't have been complete had he not been there. And
Harrison
Harrison
is
learned a lot.
learning
And
so much.
those kids and leaders also learned a lot from that, and it's on all of us to do that. So yes, very much a personal thing, part of my life's mission to support and to help my children who happen to be extra special.
What does freedom look like in our family?
Well, I think some of that we kind of talked about with the last question, but it's the freedom to be able to participate in society, to contribute, to interact with people, to have the ability to say, hey, and overcome that wait time that you don't have as you're walking through the hallway or see somebody quickly, which gets to the next conversation of how are you doing, of where are you from, and to really get to know somebody.
Yeah, being given the opportunity to do that. That's what freedom looks like. Being given the opportunities.
Amen.
Opening those doors.
Opening those doors.
Not closing doors
Yeah.
on people because you're afraid of them because they're different. They don't fit in your cookie cutter.
That everybody has that chance.
Everyone is different.
Yep, and people forget that, don't they?
Yep. People need to be more accepting.
Boom.
How have you seen growth in opportunities for people with special needs?
Well, I think in today's society, people with special needs are so much more part of society. Between more emphasis on understanding autism and the spectrum, and you have programs like Special Olympics Unified. You have schools that are much more inclusive and becoming more inclusive altogether. And I don't remember if we talked about this last time, but when I was a kid growing up, most of the kids with special needs went to a whole separate school.
Mm-hmm.
They were part of a whole separate school, so we didn't even get to interact with them and play with them. And I know Anna talked about how when they were let out of their area of the school, that it was like the zoo was let out, is what everybody referred to.
Yeah, I was a little kid, and I remember being afraid of a little boy named Chip because he would come out of the special needs classroom. We didn't know what it was called at the time because nobody educated us as little second and third graders. All I knew is that they said the zoo's being let out, and all these little kids that weren't taught how to act with other kids would come play on the playground with us, and they would chase us. And they would be a little different. And at first I was a little bit scared because they almost made it feel scary. And it shouldn't have been that way. So that was my first introduction, was this little boy named Chip. And I really wish to this day I could get to meet him again and get to know him and not be afraid. I didn't like that we were taught that in that generation. And so I'm glad to see things changing and shifting, that they're a part of our school, that little boy probably now would get to learn how to interact with us rather than just chase us and us be afraid of him. He was just so excited to see other kids, just to be with other kids. That was it.
Yeah.
But didn't know how. More opportunities to learn how to be with people of all abilities and age, just everything, and to be more accepting and not to judge and shun and disclude, but to include in everything.
What do you hope the next generation understands about equality?
Equality is for everybody. Okay, every size, shape, ability of person, everybody can contribute in some way, shape, or form. Everybody has a place to contribute to society in some way, shape, or form. Just given that opportunity, people will step up and learn and grow. It's harder for some people than for other people, but I hope they understand that equality is about everybody, not just those who are extra capable, but those who are capable but just take a little bit longer and might look a little bit different or sound a little bit different, or in some cases can't even talk. There are some people that don't have the ability to communicate like the rest of us. They communicate through other means, but they have a place in our society as well. And I hope the next generation understands that there's a lot to be learned from those people who struggle or have more challenges than other people. And it gives people opportunities to get outside of themselves and to learn and to help and to serve. And you become so much of a better person by serving other people and helping. Because sometimes maybe somebody does need a little extra help. But by giving that to them, you grow yourself and learn, and everybody benefits.
We're doing a retreat coming up, a family retreat. And the whole thing isn't about how much it costs. It's about what can you donate, meaning what skill are you good at. And so the whole form for them to fill out to get to come is they need a list of things they're good at and what they're willing to donate. And I had one of the women call me, and a lot of these are either mothers of kids with special needs or special need adults themselves. And they're really digging deep, trying to find what they're good at. And they're thinking they're not good at anything. And so I'm helping them go down the list. And one mother says, I don't have any talents. And I said, well, are you good at cooking? Do you make dinner for your, family every day? And she realized that something she's actually really good at is making dinner. And so she's checking off the boxes that she can cook. And that's what's fun is I'm putting people together that are good at certain skills and they're in charge of that activity. And so it's neat to see the different skills popping up, whether they're good at crocheting and they can make some things for, the NICU at the hospital. So we're just putting together and finding people's skills and where they can fit. And I think if we could do that as a society as a whole, find people's skills and what they're good at, where they can contribute, I think that would just be really grand.
Absolutely. Amen to that.
Amen. What do you hope our country continues to improve?
Well, that's kind of a big open-ended question there, isn't it? Everything.
Yes, everything.
Everything. Obviously, we've made a lot of improvement in the last 250 years, and there's always more to go. As
more
inclusive
improvement every day. Or
1%,
every year.
1% improvement every day is going to be a huge improvement.
Or we were listening to a young man speak who's trying to grasp, life and everything, and he said, if I can just improve 1% every million years, then eventually I'll get there. So if we've improved 1% over the last 250 years, maybe we can do another 1% over the next 250 years. I think it's been more than
We've
that.
done more than 1% though. Our country's doing decent, pretty good.
It's a constant back and forth. And sometimes you overcorrect in areas where you try to help, but maybe that was harmful, but you learn from mistakes and you move forward. And the biggest thing I hope our country continues to prove is just the ability to learn from the past and to improve and to not get too stuck in one area or one idea, and to be open to new ideas to help the country, to help people is the biggest thing.
To help people. That was key, to help people.
How can young people be part of creating a more inclusive future?
So much to do. And the biggest thing is just being open-minded, willing to learn and to understand and to let somebody into their mind and into their heart to be part of their life. Because, as Anna emphasized, it's about people. It's about individual people. Our country is only as great as the people who live here. And there's a lot of great people that live here in America. And so just being open to, hey, get to know somebody who they might have been scared of in the past. And that's, really a big part of everything is people are scared of what they don't know and don't understand. And if you don't ever hang out with somebody or talk with somebody or learn about somebody, you don't understand them and that makes you scared of them. Language barriers have been a huge part of a lot of conflicts in the past where people just couldn't communicate. Most people in the world have a common goal of to live happy and healthy lives, and bringing everybody in to that is such a huge deal. And that's what everybody can do is, and it might just be one person. If everybody just includes one more person in their lives, in their friend circle, invite them over at lunch.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the keys, and I talked about it this week with one of the leaders on the phone when they were discussing my kids at this youth group, they were trying to decide whether to send them home or not because they made decisions for them. And what I mean when I say that is just because someone doesn't speak, don't make the decision for them that they don't want to be a part of what you're doing. I hope that makes sense. So
They want to be part of it.
Anna talked with them, and they were saying these things, and we talked to Caroline, and she's like, I had no idea any of that was going on.
So because she had crutches, they decided she couldn't walk the campus of the college. And so I had to explain to them that she could, just because she had crutches. She's very capable. She's good at walking the high school campus.
Well, she has the equipment to help her.
Yep, you're right.
Rather than no equipment.
Yeah, if she had no equipment, then she would need someone to help balance her all across the campus. But she doesn't. She has her crutches. If she needs,
glad there's equipment.
Right. But they decided that she
for
could
this day, but people cannot accept that.
They also decided that she couldn't get her own food by herself, that she needed one-on-one support because she had her crutches, which, she's 18 years old.
She's independent.
We've done a lot of practice with this. She gets in a space where she can balance and puts her crutches in the corner. She's able to balance that short 10 feet to get her plate and dish up her food, sit at a table. So she analyzes the situation and how the distance is walking and what she can grab onto for balance. But it was just interesting how quickly they made decisions for her because they just looked at her instead of asking if she needed help. And she didn't need help. She was able to get across campus with her equipment, with her crutches. She was able to put her crutches in the corner. So a lot of times my point is we make decisions for people by looking at them instead of just inviting them and judging. And I think we just need to invite them and let them make the decision for themselves. Like another example is shaking someone's hand. If somebody, doesn't have a hand, or somebody has their hands on their crutches balancing instead, still give them the opportunity. Put your hand out and greet them and see they've already had to overcome this problem on their own for however long it is. Maybe they just smile and give you an elbow bump, or maybe they do a fist bump, or, let them decide. And I just think that's really important when you see someone in a wheelchair or crutches to quit deciding for them what you think they need and give the opportunity to have that conversation, open up and let them make that decision.
Or if somebody does need a little bit of help with something, like if somebody wears glasses, doesn't mean they're not capable. It just means they need help
to see,
their eyes to be able to see.
Yeah, and if Caroline does need help carrying the plate to her table, how cool is that?
How big of a deal is that for somebody else who's very capable to carry 2 trays instead of 1?
There you go.
Just like wearing glasses instead of not glasses. So yes.
I think that's huge. So.
Most of us are stuck in the past.
You're stuck in the past?
No.
She's not.
I am leaning towards the future.
You're part of changing the future, aren't you?
Yes.
Amen.
What would you say to families who are still fighting for inclusion and equal opportunities?
Well, the biggest thing I would say is just don't give up. Even if you get a setback, even if somebody tells you no. And Anna's much more one to talk about this one than I am. She's bucked a lot of systems, gone against the grain a lot of times, but the biggest thing is just not to give up. Understand what the goal is. Understand it's possible to reach it. Also understand that the people you're working with also are imperfect and have preconceived notions.
Or they're just scared and have no experience in the area.
Anna's really good at killing people with kindness.
That sounded like it was going to be scary.
I know, kill people with kindness it's empathetic. And yes, I know my kids are different, that they have special needs, but they're capable of so much. Yes, it's hard when you hear no. It's hard when you don't feel like your kids are wanted. but it's worth the fight. It's worth the effort, because it is just going to get better and better if we all put in that effort. Because people will be more open to it the more you do it. It's been a long fight, but it's a fight worth having, and there's still more to be fought. And sometimes it gets better, and sometimes it regresses back down and back and forth.
I lovingly have to make people upset sometimes, and it's not something I want to do, but you have to upset systems, I've learned. And you can do it with kindness. You need to do it without belittling or making other people feel worthless. It's a skill you have to learn. It's
Kill 'em
taken
with
me,
kindness.
she's 22 years old. It's taken me a lot of years to learn this, and I feel bad 'cause she's been my guinea pig, but I've been able to, Caroline and Harrison follow behind. But I had just had a mother reach out for another mother today, for a child that got denied something because of their disabilities. And so I'm hoping to have a conversation and help work her through this. But it's exactly not taking the word no and helping them see new systems and new ways to do things, because that child is just as valuable as the other children being there, and probably needs it more than the other kids are there, because they have lots of opportunities to do things. And those with disabilities, a lot of times just get told to stay home, go to a group home. Oh, you can do it on Zoom. It's safer for everyone else. Not better for that person, but it's safer for everyone else. It's easier.
And I don't know if safer, easier, or more convenient.
Well, they decide it's safer, is
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
exactly.
They decide it's safer. And that's
What?
And so I haven't told you about that, sorry. So she's a little shocked. What, another one?
And also the families would say, don't be afraid to think outside the box. It's going to be more effort on your part. When our kids were first told that they might not be able to attend these youth camps, Anna simply stepped up and said, I'm going to come and be there.
Teach you how to do it.
Teach you how to, I'm going to be there to support. If there's any problems, nobody else has to be there to help. I will be a few minutes away. Where, spending a whole week in a parking lot in a motorhome, where she's there to help support our kids with those things that they have a hard time doing themselves, which gives them the opportunity to.
And they progressed in those things by themselves, actually, because I was close by, and I just encouraged them over the phone or something, but I was there quick enough if they needed me.
Just in case.
And that gave them the comfort, and they actually were able to move forward, or somebody carried their plate to the table for them. They didn't need me to go in there and do that for them.
It's like most of us could walk across a board that was, a foot wide if that board was sitting on the ground, because we have confidence. If something did happen, we step off and we're safe. But if you put that same footboard 10 feet up in the air, most of us couldn't walk across it because we don't have the support there. But being close by to support and supporting them through it is the biggest part of it. Don't be afraid of the fight, be nice in the fight, and be there to support. And sometimes, there's a point where you can't push anymore, where it's not going to do any good to continue to buck that system. Sometimes you lose the fight, but sometimes
we've learned to pad that wall. I finally look at my kids and say, is this worth ripping down this wall anymore, or do we just pad this one with a bunch of pillows and let them stay in their little box and walk off, and we figure out another system, right? We've done that.
Come back to it later, or come around from a different direction.
Yep.
Sometimes you lose, and you just got to reload and come back from a different direction. I like to pad the wall.
Yeah. Why is it important to keep having this conversation?
Because of you, because of Caroline, because of Harrison, because of our family.
The couple hundred families that we work with every day in Special Olympics Unified, right?
Those, we're just thinking back to last year.
And families reaching out from other parts of the world.
Needing help,
Yep.
needing advice.
You got a phone call today from someone.
Yep. And the biggest part of it is it's important for each individual person. Last year when one of our daughters was a junior in high school and prom was coming up, and of course in high school, going to prom, being asked to prom, asking somebody to prom is a big part of learning and growth. We ended up, long story short, putting together a group of students who don't usually get the opportunity to go to prom. We helped coordinate a date for them.
And not all of them know that. We don't want them to know that. They got to feel special.
Absolutely not. Was it work on our part? Was it work on mostly on Anna's part? She did most of it. But one of these young men was actually Caroline's date from last year. Just in the last couple of weeks, had a tragic accident and passed away. It's important to have these conversations because I think that was the only date that young man ever went on his whole
He
life.
actually won one other one, and he had the courage to go on another date because he went on that
Because
date.
of that. Look at that. I learned something, and actually because of that, he went and he'd been homeschooled, but he had the courage to step out and go to do college while he was still in high school, be part of automotive. And that's why it's important to have these conversations and to push these things for individuals. They're capable, everybody is capable of something and of so much more than what we really know. And it's hard for those of us who don't have any obvious disabilities to step out of our comfort zone. Even harder if society has told you your whole life that you're special and you don't need to do this or need to do that.
I can't do it.
That you can't do it.
But I can do it.
It's important.
If I can do it, you can do it.
Amen. That's the reason why it's important to have these conversations for people. And as soon as they get benefited, the rest of us around them reap even so much more of a benefit. I've never, in the many years that we've done Special Olympics,
Unified. That's important.
Unified. Well, I remember in high school having the opportunity to go and be a volunteer at Special Olympics a couple of times with the swim team. Did like 2 swim meets and a track meet. And if you've ever gone to those, they give the volunteer a shirt, and most of the time on the shirt it says, being a volunteer is highly contagious at these events. Because once you're around it and you see the heart, the spirit, the want, the will of everybody involved, you usually want to be involved again. It's a highly contagious type of atmosphere. And that's what this forward momentum is in all of this, is once you get to know them, once you understand them.
But why does it have to be inside a bubble of that? Why can't we
It should
bring
be
it
with
out
everything.
into the community? Why can't it be in a bakery, in the grocery store, at church, everywhere? Why? That's what we're trying to do, is bring it forward. It shouldn't be where you have to go to an event to be around people that just are wonderful people too and absolutely want to kick life and do as well as you do.
And who will have the opportunity to change your life.
My sister sent me a powerful text this week because they were wanting to send my kids home. And she said, if they let them stay, they will get to see the benefits of how to bless their lives, because they'll get, and they're my children, so of course they bless my life. But even if Caroline blessed one life that week, because people got to see her walk up that hill with crutches, that was really hard, and they were having a hard time walking up that hill, maybe that'll encourage them to do something a little bit harder in their life later. But Caroline walked up the hill fast. Once I told her she had to walk fast up the hills to be able to get to stay at camp because they were thinking she was too slow. She went fast everywhere because she didn't want to go be sent home. And so she just had to be told, but they'd rather send her home than tell her to walk faster.
And her thing was actually like, everybody else was walking slow, so I just walked with them.
And they were walking slow to be with her. So communication is really important. Don't decide for others is kind of the learning from that.
What does freedom for all mean to you today?
Means America.
Mm-hmm.
When America was started, when people started to come to the New World, they were fleeing or escaping or leaving a place where not everybody had freedom, where it was more important of where you were born, who you were born to. Where you were born was so much a part of your ability to have opportunities in life. And in America, none of that matters. Everybody has the opportunity to be successful. Everybody has the opportunity to succeed. And other countries have freedom now, but America, I think, just has an extra special layer of that for everybody, where, it's going to be harder for some people than other people to be successful. But in America, everybody has that opportunity if they really want. And that's really what it means is, anybody can do what they want or what they dream to do if they're willing to work hard enough. And our goal is to help even more people understand that and know that they can be successful,
That they're capable.
And that's what freedom means, is the freedom to love, the freedom to worship, the freedom to do, the freedom to choose. And yeah, in America, with freedom, sometimes there's things that happen that aren't so desirable for a lot of people, because with freedom comes bad choices as well by people. And people have the opportunity to choose whether they want to be part of things or not. They can't be forced. Agency is a huge part of freedom, and we all have it, and we have it in America more than other places. And so yeah, there might be some parts of America that aren't perfect. You're always going to have people who are bigoted or closed-minded, and that's their right to have those opinions.
That's their journey, and I'm sad for them.
Journey. And we can just be sad for them and be there to try to help and to be examples to change their minds.
Maybe that's their disability, and we can support them.
Definitely some people's disability, for sure. Amen.
Thank you, Charlotte.
You're welcome.
Thank you for letting me come on the podcast.
You're welcome, Dad.
We'll do this again in 250 years, okay?
Happy birthday, 250 years.
We'll do it again at 250 years from now.
Thank you so much, Dad, for sharing your knowledge and your heart today.
You're very welcome.
It's important to remember where we started and how much we've grown and how we keep growing to include everyone. Happy birthday, USA, 250 years. Woo!
Happy birthday, America.
If you'd like to learn more about our mission and connect with some support, visit www.narrowbuds.org. Thank you for listening, for learning, and for believing in a world where everyone belongs. And as always, so let's be friends.
Woohoo!
If you're listening, thank you for being a part of this. We are excited to share more stories and more truth and more love in every episode. Until next time, love one another, and like I say, so let's be friends.